Alright, hello today, guys. This is my new Yamaha, well, new to me, Yamaha TTR225. I just picked it up for $500 about a week ago. I've been riding it pretty good for the last few days. Um, the guy I picked it up from, he told me he hadn't rode it hardly at all. He said he rode it about 2 times in the last 2 years. And he said that he only started a handful of times in between. So I talked to the guy, and he lived about an hour away from me, and I was kind of iffy on it because he said that it needed some work. I said, what kind of work? Cosmetic work, engine work? I wanted to know. So he's like, well, the engine runs, but it definitely could use a little bit of a tune-up, maybe a carburetor cleaning, or even a carb rebuild completely, or a new carb. And that kind of worried me because if the carburetor was in bad shape, I was wondering when I got to see it, what else would the thing be like? Would the exhaust pipe be rusted out? Would there be oil leaks, gas leaks, anything like that? And I asked him. He's like, no, it runs. It just doesn't run very good. So, I took a gamble. I went out there. He wanted $650 for it. And that was by far the cheapest bike I could find that actually ran. So I went out there with the trailer, got 650 bucks out of the bank. Went out there. I wasn't planning on spending $650 anyways. I was only going to spend, if I could, $475. That was going to be my number. So, got out there. He started it. Let me run it for a few minutes. It ran decent. It wasn't like, there was definitely some skipping and some playing it because it was like hesitating. But I took a shot in the dark and I said, okay, let me take this thing home for 500 bucks. He said, all right, sounds good. I got home and I didn't feel like the carburetor is right there. That's the carb right there. And I really didn't feel like going in there and taking it all apart, so I just dumped some carburetor cleaner in there, fresh tank of gas, crossed my fingers. And it cleaned itself out. I figured because the way he told me, he hadn't rode hardly at all. These bikes, you have to ride them. You can't just let them sit out unless you have no gas in it and you ride it until it's completely dry and it dies out without any gas and there's absolutely zero gas in the thing. Then, you can let it sit for the winter. That's what I'm going to do this winter. I'm going to run it so there's absolutely zero gas in there. Completely run it till it's empty and then put it away for the winter. There's no way I'm leaving gas in it over the winter. So after I ran it, it cleaned itself out pretty good. The only things the only engine based thing that I have to do on it is just replace the carburetor and replace the and do some work with the chain over here. So the chain, it's kind of loose right now, but as I ride it, I've noticed it gets tighter because I'm not too familiar with dirt bikes. I haven't rode a lot of dirt bikes my whole life. I've rode them, but not a lot. I've never owned one. I know this plastic, I think this is like a chain guard type thing down here, has to be replaced. The tires on it are relatively decent for the time being. So pretty much everything on this bike, engine-wise, is solid. There's only a few cosmetic things that really need to be replaced. So, cosmetic-wise, the seat right here, that's got some little rips, and it's still pretty good. The seat's still pretty cushiony. I can still ride it definitely like this for a couple of years before I actually have to replace the seat because those aren't cheap. Other cosmetic stuff, it definitely needs a hand grips. 2 hand grips on both sides are definitely shot. The brake lever, he told me he dumped the bike and snapped it, which that tends to happen with dirt bikes. You drop them, and these things aren't too expensive. I just had to buy this clutch lever right here because a friend of mine who I let ride it apparently did not put the kickstand up all the way. He only had it out to about right here. And I know I'm not wearing shoes. But anyways, he got off. We went inside, come back outside, and sure enough, the thing is on the ground. This clutch lever was up to here in the dirt, and it just snapped completely off. So I went out, bought a new one of those, and replaced that. Just turned the gas on. I did have this thing started this morning. I was running it for a little while, so I didn't get a chance to do a cold start on it, but I'm going to start it for you anyway. It starts right up. He has a new battery right here. I don't know if you can see that. That's the battery right there. He just replaced it last year, he said, so I don't know, focus. He just replaced it a year ago, so it's a pretty good battery. Hopefully it'll last me a few years. Let's start her up. So one thing, when I first got this, before I cleaned the carburetor out with carb cleaner, when I revved the throttle up like that, it would definitely hesitate really bad. It did not want to go. So it runs pretty much as good as it can possibly run right now. This is pretty dirty. I did ride through some mud already. That's the model number right there. It's kind of hard to auto focus right there. The shocks on here are relatively decent, actually. It has pretty good shocks. This is not a bike that you will end up taking to motocross. That's the thing, is that with this bike, it is not a motocross bike. It is not a bike that you're going to be jumping every 5 minutes or going off huge jumps and stuff like that. It's not the type of a bike. It's not a racing bike. And no matter what the stickers tell you on here and what everything says, it is not a racing bike. I mean, sure, you can take it to a motocross track. Definitely. Yes, you can. You can take it to one and just maybe ride it around a couple of times just on the track just for a joyride if they let you do that. By all means, go right ahead. I mean, you can. This thing is a phenomenal trail bike. An absolutely awesome trail bike, especially for beginners like myself. I've grown up riding four-wheelers and snowmobiles. I've only rode dirt bikes a handful of times. I've never owned one, and the only dirt bikes that I've rode were either an automatic or a semi-automatic, like the four-wheeler, never one with a clutch. So it took some getting used to. It took me a good week to get the shifting down. And yes, I did dump the bike on my second day. I was riding and I had the bike lean too much, going too fast, and just slid out from under me. I didn't really get hurt, just kind of slid. I let go and it slid about 5 feet. Got up, started, and took back off. Luckily, I wasn't hurt. So everything on this bike, other than cosmetic stuff, works. But like I said, this isn't really a motocross bike. It's more of a trail bike, or if you have fields, you ride around the fields, you'll have a great time, especially for beginners. And I've heard some reviews about this thing not being good for a street. I mean, for a dirt bike, if I'm going to buy a dirt bike, I'm not going to make it so it can go on the road. That's just me. I'm not buying a bike, and I'm not going to put this bike here. It has a package that you can get from Yamaha, from the factory. You can put a light here and a light there. You can put lights on there. And it even comes with like a little handy spot for a mirror right there in that little hole. That's for a mirror. So yes, you can make it for the street. Wait, I believe either that hole right there or that hole is for the mirror. I believe it's that one for some reason, but I could be wrong. I know one of these is for the mirror at least. But I would never use this bike for the street. I mean, I would never use a dirt bike period for the street. This bike here tops out at about 65, which you could bring it on some freeways that are 65 miles an hour. You'll have the thing topped out completely the entire time. You'll probably be in slow lane the entire time. You're not going to be passing anybody. People are going to be passing you. But if you're going to buy a dirt bike, I recommend you just ride on the dirt. You know, it's dirt bike for a reason. It's meant for off-road use. It's not really a road bike. That's just my opinion. I mean, don't let me stop you. If you get a dirt bike and you want to make it into a road bike, go right ahead, because that might be all you can afford. But if it were me, I would just go ahead and get a bigger bike, like a 400 or something like that, or just a motorcycle in general for a street, that's what I would do. Um, but this is just a phenomenal trail bike, even for novice riders or even people who've rode bikes before. The suspension on this thing is amazing for soaking up bumps. Even in fields and stuff like around here, where there's just a ton of bumps, like little tiny bumps to big bumps, it soaks it up so well. And then there's this hill right here, at least to our driveway, and we have a pretty long driveway. I've jumped it a couple of times, actually, against my better judgment, just to see. I came up here just full out. I jumped it probably 15 feet at the most, and it just soaked up that little jump. I mean, it's not like a motocross jump by any means, but it soaked it up, and I'm really impressed. And besides the cosmetic work on here, this thing just is amazing. I'm going to show you the shock here. It's kind of hard to see. So if you can see that shock right there, I did get the tensioner or the shock tightener from my snowmobile kit. That goes right on that metal piece on the bottom. I don't know if you can see that too well. On the bottom metal round piece right there, you put it on there, and you can click it to the right, or the one above that actually, the bigger one. Click it to the right to tighten it, click it to the left to loosen it. And I tightened the shock up a little bit, and it just helped out a lot. So yeah, it's not really, cross my fingers, it's not rusted out, and hopefully it'll last a while. The only major thing on this bike that I don't like is the fact that the guy who had it before me decided he wanted to try and change the oil on his own. And I'm going to show you if you guys can see it. You see that? That's the oil drain plug right there. And he just screwed that thing up. He apparently he tried to get it off and could not get the right size socket on there or something along those lines, and started to strip it out. So he stopped, and as of right now, the oil O-ring on there is cracked, and it does have a tiny little drip. It drips about probably like half a teaspoon every night. So I just put like a drop in every morning. I keep a little pan under there. I called up my local shop, small engine place. I told them the problem. They said they could definitely take it off and replace that for me and change the oil. Because I went out and bought the oil from another small engine shop that sold Yamahas and everything. Got the oil filter, which goes right here. That's the oil filter. Went out, bought all the parts for it to replace the oil, and I get to that, and it really kind of ticked me off. But, you know, that's the thing with buying stuff from people. They're not always honest, hardly ever, actually. That's the sad thing. But he does make up for it in the fact that I think this is hilarious. On the front tire for the valve stem, he used a die for the valve stem, which I think is actually pretty. I mean, I'm going to put a normal one on there. I don't feel like taking this down the trail and having somebody see that, because it's kind of, I don't know. I've never seen that before. I have never seen that before in my life. I think it's kind of funny, though. I do think that's pretty funny. And I just now noticed that, too. Right as I was filming, I just now noticed that. I think that's pretty funny, actually. But, so yeah, there's a slight oil leak on there, which is nothing major. You know, I could ride this down the trail, stop, sleep on the trail, and then get up and go riding again. It's not going to be low on oil. It'll take like probably a good 2 weeks of sitting straight for it to run out of oil, or get low at least. But yeah, just cosmetic work on here. It definitely needs some stickers, badging, hand grips, all that good stuff. But that's minor stuff. As long as there's nothing wrong with the engine, I'm extremely happy. The only thing that is important to me right now is fixing that little plastic piece right here on top of my finger, fixing that, and fixing the oil situation. Getting those two things fixed, and then it'll be pretty good. Let's just go ahead and start her one more time. And she starts up every time. Right off the bat, she starts right up so nice. And she shifts so smooth. I don't know about you guys, but I love 4-strokes. I love the sound of them. I like 2-strokes like they're snowmobiles, but I think 4-strokes just sound phenomenal. And for a dirt bike like this, I like 4-strokes. That's the one I was looking for, and I got it, and it makes me very happy. Just sounds good. I think it just sounds great, actually. I just love the sound of 4-strokes. I always have, and I mean, it's not even like this bike sounds the best. It doesn't sound as good as like a 250, but it does sound good to me. One thing I love about this bike is right there on the on-off switch. You see the little thing that says lock. I'm not sure if all dirt bikes have this, but this one does, and I do enjoy it. Once you turn the bike wheel, turn that key to lock, like so, and it locks it. So somebody, if you had like out back here where I do, somebody couldn't just come down here and walk out with it unless they had 2 people carrying it, which that'd be quite a bit of work, and my dog would let me know, and I just let the dog out and he would eat them alive pretty much. So this is my Yamaha TTR225, and I haven't actually gotten onto many trails yet, but I'm planning on doing it later this summer. Gonna hook up the trailer, which actually we are taking to the dump. It's full of stuff on there. I had the 4-wheeler hooked up. I'm gonna bring it around back, put the truck onto it, and take that to the dump. And after I get that loaded at the dump, I'll have the trailer free to take this on some trails, and I'll be very happy. And like I said, I'm not too used to riding these with the clutch on here, but because I'm used to riding that one with the semi-automatic, which the thing is that 4-wheeler tops out at like 40, 45 at the most going downhill. This tops out at 65. So, I mean, if I was taking this down the road, just like a short way down the road, it would have no problem doing that. I could definitely take it down some highways around here. Like there's a highway right through those woods about half a mile that way. There's a highway that's 55 miles an hour. I could definitely take it down that road. No problem at all. Would I get a ticket and probably arrested? Yes, because it's not street legal. But you know what I mean. I'm not going to, but I could. So yeah, it works great. It sounds good. It's just a great bike, especially for beginners. Like I said, it's not as good on gas as the 4-wheelers are, I don't think. They do have a bigger gas tank on there. They do have a bigger. I think this is 2.6 gallons. I think that's like 4 gallons or something like that. I'm not exactly sure what the 4-wheeler is. But if I ride this thing for 2 days, for about 3 hours a day, let's say, combined, I mean, you can't even see the gas in there. It's so low right now. It's not that great on gas. She's a heavy bike. You know, she's heavy. Getting off the trailer when I first bought the thing, I underestimated how heavy the bike quite was, and I rolled it down the ramp, and it didn't completely dump over, but I could barely catch the thing and lift it back up. So it's heavy. By all means, it is heavy because it's a 4-stroke. So it does use a little bit more gas, I believe, than a 2-stroke would, but you know, it's just how it is. I do put highest octane I can get, which is usually 93. If non-ethanol, I always use non-ethanol on this. The 4-wheeler, not so much. That one I kind of use like 87 or 89. Same thing with the mower. All lawnmowers, just low octane. They're not as important. The 4-wheeler, I think that they're a little bit tougher, to be honest. That's not like a high performance like this is. That's more of a working machine, like as you can see the wood on there and towing that trailer. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. I'll have a review shortly on the 4-wheeler there, and another review on some other things coming up, and I'll actually take a review or not a review, I'll take a video of when I get everything said and done. Yeah, I get the new hand grips and for this, and I get the new brake lever here. I'll take a video of me replacing all that for you guys. And I mean, that stuff's pretty straightforward. You just kind of pull that back, comes off, you put the new one on. This one, there's only a couple of screws on there. That's your tightener for the brake. And that's one other thing. This is completely on me. Right here, right there, that screw for the brake fluid. Yeah, it's stripped out, and that is on me. I got the screwdriver. I unscrewed that bolt relatively easily. It came right undone. And as soon as I got to this one, I go unscrew it, and it started turning. And I knew right then there it was pretty messed up. So I got to figure out a way to get that off, because it's got plenty of brake fluid in there right now, but I will want to have that off eventually. It's not a major concern right now, but probably this time next year or 2 years probably down the road, if I'm careful, I don't use this brake a ton, I'll be okay, but I have to get that off. And I'm not exactly sure. I tried the duct tape trick where you put duct tape in there and sometimes it grips on there. That didn't work. It might have just made it worse. So I do have to figure out a way to get that off. If I can't, I'll have to bring it somewhere where they can professionally do it. But one other thing on this bike, though, it does not have the normal fender. In fact, you can see here, this plastic looks really new right there. And you're probably wondering why, and that is because on here, the guy who bought it, I just pulled this off before I started filming, he had this sticker, and believe it or not, he had a Kawasaki sticker on here, which, I'm trying to unfold it, yeah, you can kind of see it was a Kawasaki Team Green Racing sticker. And now, it's not that I have anything against Kawasaki by any means. Kawasaki's are good bikes, especially for the money. They're cheaper than a Yamaha, I know that much. I'm not too familiar with Kawasaki. I've never really rode them. I've never actually rode anything Kawasaki, but I know they're a decent bike. But yeah, that wasn't gonna fly with me. Having a Kawasaki sticker on a Yamaha, that's just wrong. Throw that out. The Moose Racing stickers, I'm probably gonna just peel that off. And I don't know if I'll probably replace this as well and get a different, I don't even know what you call this thing, just like I think it's for if you like hit a bump in your chest or your head or something hits that, it'll protect you a little bit. But I'm gonna peel that off. I'll probably get like a I don't know, some sort of a sticker, probably a Yamaha sticker, or probably a big Yamaha badge maybe, or the word Yamaha right across. And I don't know, that's something else for another time. So my honest review of this is a good bike, especially for beginners. If you see one of these bikes for sale and you find it like I did, like for $500-600 or something around there, I found one similar to this. It was a Kawasaki. It was a 225, or no, it was like a 200, I think, or something like that. And the guy wanted like 1,000, and he said the thing was in perfect condition. And I wasn't gonna spend that much. I asked him if he would take like, I didn't want to be a jerk about it, but I'm like, hey, would you by any chance take like 500? And he's like, oh, I couldn't take any less than 9. I'm like, okay, yeah, this isn't gonna work. Found one other bike, a Yamaha. It was a 150, and a 150, I wouldn't really be wanting to ride a 150. It'd be too small. They wanted like $400 for it. It needed work, so I figured at first, I thought, oh, well, $400 I can make it work. Just have something to bomb around on until I get more money. Maybe sell it, but I waited out and I found this, and she's my baby. I love this bike. Even though I've only had it for 10 days. 11 days. Well, that's the end of this review. I will see you guys on the next one.